Welcome to another edition of the Spyder's Web, live from the Bucks room. And I bet you were wondering, where was I? I mean, I've been out for about a week and a half. I do this whole thing from WrestleMania. And I told you my voice was about to go, but I had no idea once I got back into town that I was going to be sick. So I was sick. Now I'm back. I'm ready to talk NFL draft. And that's what we're going to hit tonight. This is one of my favorite times of the year in sports. The NFL draft. What are the Buccaneers going to do at 5? I think that's been the big question. If you're a Buccaneer fan, if you're tuning in the Tampa Bay area, that has to be your question. Do they trade up? Do they trade down? We're going to break down some of those scenarios. Not only that, but we're going to go through a little bit of a debate. What do you draft for? Do you draft for need? Or do you draft for the best player on the board? We're going to get into that a little bit. Also, I'm going to go ahead and give you my top 10 mock draft. I'm not going to go 32 picks because guess what? We would be here probably for 2 hours. Again, I'm Spyder. You are watching the Spyder's Web on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you very much for tuning in. So let's get to it. The Buccaneers are drafting number 5. Ridiculous record last year, 4-12. What are they going to do? Who are they going to draft? I'll go through some of these scenarios. And you tell me if you agree with it or you don't agree with it. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, I could come up with all these scenarios all night long. I could do this. I mean, I think I came up with 10 scenarios, but I'm going to break it down to at least 4 or 5. So, for first scenario that I have right here, take Morris Claiborne. And I think this is probably what could happen. I think this is a smart pick because it's a need. The Buccaneers need a cornerback. That defense gave up 494 points last year. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. You have Aqib Talib, who could be going to prison. You don't know his future on this team. You have Rondé Barber, who's probably one step away from retirement. He's even being looked at as maybe a safety. You have the greatness of E.J. Biggers and Myron Lewis. Or non-greatness, if you will. If I have to see these two guys play cornerback, I think I'm going to puke. So Morris Claiborne makes a lot of sense. He's a guy who comes out of LSU. He's a big guy. He's got great ball skills. He's not a great tackler. That would be one thing that I would worry about. But a guy for instincts. He has the instincts. He has the coverage ability. Some people are saying he could be the best corner to come out since Darrelle Revis. So that would be a hell of a pickup if he's there. Now, here's the second scenario. Trade up for Trent Richardson. Listen, this is what I want the Buccaneers to do. I would like them to trade up for Trent Richardson. I think this guy is a playmaker. You remember Greg Schiano had a press conference. What did he say? We want to run the ball. We want to run the ball. We want to pound the ball. Well, people are saying LeGarrette Blount is that type of runner. Now, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I think he's a different type of running back. I think he's more of a Brandon Jacobs. But he's not even good on short yardage. He's fumbled the ball in the past. Greg Schiano has brought this up. And he's going to get Josh Freeman killed. He is a 2-down back. Trent Richardson is a guy that's been highly productive at Alabama. He's physical. He's 225. Every time you see this guy take the ball, he's running over somebody. Somebody is not pushing him back. He is running over them. He can catch. He can do it all. If the Buccaneers trade up for Trent Richardson, I think they have a top offense, period. Because I think the way this goes is if you bring in a playmaker like Trent Richardson, it takes the pressure off Josh Freeman. Not only that, but on the defensive side, a safety has to come up in the box and respect the fact that Trent Richardson is getting the ball. That is the thing that you want because now you have one-on-one coverage with Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams and Aurelius Spin. So it makes your offense dynamic. And again, he can do so many things that LeGarrette Blount can't do. Now, here's the downside about it. He's had a knee injury, and you may have to give up an extra second or third round pick. You may have to give up a first round pick next year. You may have to give up the farm. Are you willing to do that? I'm not sure. I think in a perfect world, if the Buccaneers had more picks and didn't have as many needs as they do, I think this would be the move they would make. I truly believe that Mark Dominic and Greg Schiano see Trent Richardson as maybe the next Ray Rice. And if you know about Ray Rice, he was at Rutgers with Greg Schiano. So it makes sense if they can pull it off, but again, they have so many needs to fill at cornerback, at linebacker, at safety. So we'll see what happens. The third situation that I could see at this point would be either take the best available player. And again, there is a lot of talk that Minnesota could take Morris Claiborne at 3. Now, I don't know if I believe that or not, but if they do, then I think there's a possibility that the Cleveland Browns take Trent Richardson at number 4. So who are you stuck with? Well, Khalil drops. Do you want to take him at left tackle? It would make sense, wouldn't it? Because then you could move Trueblood out of the right tackle spot, move Khalil into that right tackle spot until Donald Penn's contract is up, and maybe move him over to the left side. It helps your running game, does it not? He supposedly is one of the best tackles in the game. The downside is he has short arms, so a lot of people don't like that. But this would be a guy that the Buccaneers may want to take a look at because, furthermore, he was looked at the beginning of this draft a couple months ago. Okay, the evaluation process as a top 3 pick, and now he could be there at 5. You could also take Luke Kuechly, and I said his name right, and I can't believe I didn't get it wrong, but I got his name right. Luke Kuechly, a middle linebacker out of Boston College. Listen, folks, it's a need. You have Mason Foster playing the middle linebacker spot. This guy is 6'3", 240. He's got great coverage skills. One scout called him the best linebacker with his eyes. He has instincts. Now, is he a thumper? Is he a guy that's going to fill the hole? He has a lot of tackles, but no, he's not that type of player. So maybe you are stretching for a need. Maybe you're stretching too much for a need with Kuechly, but that would be a player you may want to look at and may be there for the Buccaneers. I think he definitely will be there. Justin Blackmon. If Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns don't take Justin Blackmon, then yes, I could say, let's go after Justin Blackmon for the Buccaneers. And you say, why? You just signed Vincent Jackson, Spyder. Well, this is why. Because it is a passing league. You had almost 5 quarterbacks pass over for 5,000 yards last year. Eli Manning would have had 5,000 yards if he didn't miss a game. This is a passing league. It's not a running league. So any weapons that you can add to this offense is going to be a benefit for Josh Freeman. And let's face it, okay, this team, offensively, besides Vince Jackson, Mike Williams last year gave up on some of his routes. He was not the same player the year before. Aurelius Ben, can he stay on the field? He's got speed. It looks like they're going to play him in the slot, but you really don't know what you're going to get from Aurelius Ben. So Justin Blackmon, I could definitely justify him going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5 if they wanted to make that selection. Now, here's another scenario, and it gets a little tricky right now. You could trade out. You could trade out of this pick because you have so many needs. You have a need at linebacker. You have a need at cornerback. You have a need at running back. You have a need at safety. There are so many holes with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you trade out, you recoup extra picks, maybe an extra second, maybe an extra third. And here's one team that you could look at. If Matt Khalil is there at number 5 and the Buccaneers choose not to go with him, you could go to Buffalo, call them up. You need a left tackle? Here you go. Give us an extra second or third round pick. We'll trade down to number 10. Take the best player available. You would still get Luke Kuechly as he'll be there at 10 if you want to take him, and you pick up an extra second or third round pick, maybe even a first round pick next year. So that's a possibility. And how about the Ryan Tannehill experience? And what I mean by that is basically the effect of Ryan Tannehill. What teams are willing to trade up for him? Are the Miami Dolphins willing to trade up for him? They want him pretty bad. The owner wants him pretty bad. Are they willing to trade up to number 5 because they think somebody will move ahead of them and take Tannehill? What about the Kansas City Chiefs? What about the Seattle Seahawks? You can recoup picks and fill those needs if you want to. To me, all these scenarios can work in different ways, okay? They can work to your advantage. They might not work to your advantage. If you have a chance to take a player with the 5th pick, and it is a player that you want, you take him. Now, Kuechly, I'm not sure if you take him at number 5. I'm not even sure if you trade out of this pick, because you don't know. Again, some team could take the linebacker out of Boston College, or they could take a player that's on your board. But again, the point for me with the whole trading out thing is you recoup picks, and you're going to fill those needs that you have on this team. And maybe the Buccaneers won't be able to do that in the first place. Maybe they will trade up. I personally hope they trade up for Trent Richardson. It may be a lot, but he's a dynamic playmaker that's going to make your offense that much better. It's going to make Freeman better. It's going to make Vincent Jackson better. This could be something that you have to watch. It's something you have to watch for. It's what you want to watch for during the draft. And I know I've emphasized watch. Watch and see what happens. See how many teams trade up. See how many teams trade down. See what the Buccaneers do tomorrow night. So this brings me to my next point. What do you draft for? Do you draft for need? Do the Buccaneers go for a need like Morris Claiborne? It would make sense, right? But let's say, for all intents purposes, Claiborne and Richardson are on the board. Then what do you do? I mean, as a Bucs fan, you're excited about this, but as a GM of the Buccaneers, I'm kind of glad I don't have to make this decision, because this would be a tough decision. Claiborne fills a need. Your defensive backfield is not very good. Richardson is the best player on the board. So wouldn't you go with Richardson because he's the best player on the board? Or would you go with Claiborne because he's a need? I'll give this example to you. In 2007, which absolutely kills me, it kills Spyder to even talk about this. The Buccaneers had a chance to get Calvin Johnson. There was a deal in place where the Buccaneers were going to trade up and get Calvin Johnson. At the time, I thought Calvin Johnson was probably the best player on the board. I still feel like that. By the way, he won the Madden cover, so look out. The curse is coming for Calvin Johnson. Anyway, they had a chance to trade up for Calvin Johnson. They did not make the deal. They sat there at 4. They took a need player. His name was Gaines Adams. He didn't turn out very well. It didn't work out very well at all. Now, another player that was on the board that was kind of overlooked at the time was Adrian Peterson. Why? Because the Buccaneers already filled a need with Cadillac Williams. They thought they had a running back in place, so they wanted to go for a need instead of the best player on the board. Now, let's reverse this a little bit. The Minnesota Vikings, they're at 7. They just had a guy by the name of Chester Taylor rush for over 1,000 yards. But they went with the fact of, we're going to trade. We're not going to trade. We're going to sit right where we're at, and we're going to take the best player available, even if it's a position that we already feel like we're good at. They took Adrian Peterson, and the rest is history. Calvin Johnson turned out great. Once-in-a-lifetime wide receiver. Adrian Peterson turned out great. Gaines Adams, rest in peace, not so much. And that's the argument, people. I mean, this is the argument right now. Do you take a player for need, or do you take the best player on the board? And what do you think about these scenarios with the Bucs? I mean, do you think they're going to sit there at 5? Do you think they're going to trade up? Or do you think they're going to trade down and recoup more picks? I think any one of those scenarios at this point is a possibility. Now, let's get to the mock draft. And I know that people are kind of curious to see. I've kind of given a little bit of away already. The draft, the first 2 picks are already done. But I'm going to explain my reasoning why I think these are good picks for these teams. And you can agree with me, or you can disagree with me. That's what the Spyder's Web is all about. Yes, it's my sports talk show. It's my kind of subjects that I like to talk about. But comment on Facebook. Comment on YouTube if you don't like what I have to say. Make suggestions. Like this suggestion. I had the real mayor of New York. You know who you are, Anthony. You made a comment that you want me to talk more NBA playoffs. So you know what? I think I'm going to do that the next Spyder's Web. If you have a team that you like, unfortunately, I can't get to that team right now. I'm only going to do 10 picks. But if you catch me on Facebook, I'll go ahead, tell you what I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. This is what this is about. It's an interactive experience, and this is the way it should be. So, to get to my mock draft, it's pretty easy here, guys. Indianapolis is going to take Andrew Luck. I think this is a smart pick. I think anytime a quarterback can be compared to Peyton Manning, I think you're doing the right thing. He's been in the offense of Stanford for 3 years. It's a pro-style offense. He can make all the throws, and he's even athletic enough. There were many scouts thinking that this guy was not going to be athletic enough. Consequently, he runs as fast as Cam Newton. So it makes sense. Andrew Luck is going to be their pick, and the next couple years could be rough for him because really you don't have anything in Indianapolis. You have Reggie Wayne, who's 31 years old. You have an offensive line that's not very good. You don't have a running game. You don't have a tight end. So this guy could be going through a shitload, excuse my language, of trouble with the Indianapolis Colts. Number 2, the Washington Redskins. I think they go with RG3, and it makes sense also. I mean, this is they got up, they traded for him, they gave up the farm to get him. It makes sense. The thing that concerns me is you've only heard about him for 1 year. 1 year. I mean, nobody heard from him after this. Just 1 year of RG3. He can make all the throws. He's accurate. His size concerns me a little bit. He had some concussions in college. That would concern me considering that he's going into the NFL and it's a much faster game. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get away from scrambling, but I think he's a lot better than Michael Vick was when he came into the league simply because he can read a defense, he's accurate, and he's not just a guy that's going to scramble around. He will stay in the pocket and throw the ball deep. Now, the Minnesota Vikings. And let me take a drink for a minute. WrestleMania Cup here. This is the real deal. A lot of conjecture and a lot of thought process has gone into this for me. The Minnesota Vikings, I think, is where the draft really starts. And I really think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to go with Matt Khalil. I think they're trying to do everything in their power to do what the Rams did by getting so many picks and trading down because there is a lot of depth in this draft. But if you look at the injury situation in the NFL, where was the most turnover? Well, that's easy. It wasn't cornerbacks. It wasn't safeties. It was actually offensive line and defensive line. And you have Christian Ponder. You drafted him last year, 12 overall. You may have stretched for that pick, but he is your franchise quarterback. So the theme of this mock draft is going to be, let's help our quarterback out. Say it with me. Let's help our quarterback out. And in order to help Christian Ponder out, you can make a case that he could go for Trent Richardson because of the Adrian Peterson injury situation. Is he going to come back? You can make a case for Justin Blackmon. He's a wide receiver that adds something to that offense that would make Percy Harvin better. Or you can make a case to start with the guts of a football team. And the guts of a football team starts with the line, especially the left tackle spot with Matt Khalil. It makes sense. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't buy all this crap that they're going to do this and do that and get Claiborne and take Blackmon. I don't buy it. I'm not buying it. The Cleveland Browns. And this is the interesting pick here. Could they trade out? Could they get Tannehill? Could they go and get another player? Maybe a Justin Blackmon? Again, I think it's pretty simple. If Trent Richardson's on the board, then that's what they're going to do. I think they take Trent Richardson with the pick. And again, it just makes sense from the standpoint that Mike Holmgren drafted Sean Alexander, another Alabama first-round running back, and he turned out to be the league MVP years ago. So Trent Richardson, dynamic running back. I think he works out. I think he can do a lot of things, and he can help that offense out. And if they truly believe in Colt McCoy, then you got to take the pressure off of Colt McCoy. Again, going back to my motto, let's help our quarterback out. Number 5, it's easy for me. If Richardson's off the board, if Khalil's off the board, it's got to be Morris Claiborne. You have to fill that need. You don't know what Aqib Talib's going to do. You don't know what Rondé Barber, what's left in his tank. You sign Eric Wright, but Eric Wright is okay. So go out there, get the best corner that you can get. Get a guy that has great ball skills. Get a guy that can make plays. Go out there and get Morris Claiborne, and I think that's what they do. Number 6, the St. Louis Rams. And going back to my motto, I know it sounds annoying, but let's help our quarterback out. There's talk this week that the Rams actually consider drafting Fletcher Cox from Mississippi State as a defensive tackle. Why? Why are you going to do that? Help your quarterback out. What does he have wide receiver-wise? Ready? Nothing. You didn't go out in free agency and get anybody. The Rams didn't do that as a team. You believe in Sam Bradford. You want this guy to be the franchise quarterback that you think he is. So go out and get him a wide receiver in Blackman. Now, I want to tell you something, folks. Justin Blackman is not the next Calvin Johnson. He's not. He's a beast, but he's not the next Calvin Johnson. Size-wise, he's 6'1". Calvin Johnson is 6'4", 6'5". Calvin Johnson ran a 4.3. Justin Blackman ran a 4.4. Still productive player at Oklahoma State. I think he can still come in and be a help for Sam Bradford. Now, number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of people have them taking Melvin Ingram as a defensive end type player that's going to rush the passer. I don't get it. I just don't get this. Why would you mock Melvin Ingram as the pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars? First of all, it's a mock draft. I'm going to mock you because we have Blaine Gabbert as our quarterback. And if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars GM, again, going back to my motto, let's help our quarterback out. Go out and get Michael Floyd. And to me, he could be better than Justin Blackman. Size alone, he's 6'3", 6'4". His hands are reliable. The only thing about Michael Floyd is he has some problems off the field with drinking. So that could be a risk. But I'm willing to take that risk if it means helping my quarterback out. Now, number 8, the Miami Dolphins. This is a terrible situation. Okay, first of all, the Miami Dolphins have to be one of the biggest losers this year, period. By not getting Peyton Manning, by not getting Jim Harbaugh last year, by not being able to get Jeff Fisher, by not being able to get Matt Flynn when you have the former offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers and you're not able to secure Matt Flynn. So I think they go with Ryan Tannehill. This could be a bust. Okay? He was a former wide receiver. He played in 19 games, but you can't ignore the potential that Tannehill has. You can't. He's a big guy, can make all the throws. And not only that, but the fact that he was a wide receiver may play into the advantage of him being able to understand a wide receiver's psyche, to understand where that throw belongs. So him only starting 19 games, he could be a bust, but I think the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross, wants to make this deal. If Tannehill's there, and I think he is, he runs to that podium and makes the pick. The Carolina Panthers, if Michael Floyd happens to fall to that spot, I think instead of going and investing in defense, I think they go for Michael Floyd. But since this is the way my mock is going to work out, I think they go with Fletcher Cox from Mississippi State, I believe. Okay, he's a defensive tackle. He's a fast-rising prospect. The Carolina Panther defense wasn't very good last year. They have very few playmakers on that defense, and I think this guy can penetrate and help that defense out. And number 10, the Buffalo Bills, and I know there's a fan out there that loves the Spyder's Web and definitely supports it, so pay attention, Mr. Ryan. The Buffalo Bills go after Riley Reif, the tackle out of Iowa. Could play either left, could play either right. I think this is a good move, and again, let's go back to my motto because it may sound redundant, but let's help our quarterback out. And Riley Reif does that on the offensive line. So that's my mock draft. This has been the Spyder's Web. Feel free to comment. Tell me what you think. What about the Buccaneers? What are they going to do? What about this draft? Do you draft for need? Do you draft for the best player on the board? And what about this mock draft? Are you going to mock me? Go ahead. Go for it. But this is all fun and games right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, starting either on ESPN or NFL Network. go ahead and tune in. Well, this has been the Spyder's Web. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, we got a lot of things coming. NBA talk next time. The Tampa Bay Rays talk. We'll see what happens. Right now, there's a lot of sports going on, and there's a lot of things to talk about. I'm Spyder, and I'm out.